Signore e signori, abbiamo più influenza, sui tuoi figli di te, Molly amiamo creato e iniziato da New Jersey. Last week today live, presentato da Filtastic, Comics and Art.
Let's fucking go.
Hey everybody, what's going on? I know it's been a little while. Ooh, trying to get to my right screen here. Welcome back. I guess welcome back for me too. Like I said, I've been around a while, so I appreciate everybody coming and checking in. Today is the 4-year anniversary of the channel. That's right. I've been doing this for 4 years, not necessarily the live show. Live show, I'd have to really go back and figure it out, and it's tough to kind of see that. To be honest with you, just because I haven't done it every week, as you know, and I've kind of thrown it a little bit of a loop as far as what I do live, just to kind of play things up a bit. But enough about me. I do have a guest that's coming in. He's waiting in the proverbial green room. Let's before I get him in here, before we get Brian in, let's see who's here with us today. And I've got two screens going, so I distracted myself. Well, Boar, how are you, sir? Our friend from the north. I would complain about the cold, but to you, this is probably spring today. Las Cruces from New Mexico, always the first one in. Trev, how are you? Trev, I'm not going to lie. I was thinking about you last week. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. But I kept Googling the score just because I was curious. I was like, oh, man, this is either going to be really good or really bad for Whataburger. You know, there's no in-between. Let's see who else we have. Evils Comics. How you doing, Mike? Mike, I think you have your book club tonight, right? Not the Stephen King book club. There's another one. Actually, I was thinking about you, Mike, because the thrift store near me, Book Barn, happened to show off that they have a quote unquote rare Stephen King book coming in soon. I don't know if they've unveiled that yet, but look online if you want. I think it's Book Barn NJ on Instagram. Seems like a good store. I haven't been there myself. Nice used book place, and I think they sell other things as well. Les Cruces said hello. Thank you, Trev. Christina Payne, how you doing? How you doing? Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Our guest Brian is here. Kindergarten time, Phil. Yeah, I wish. Oh, because of the 4 years. No, yeah. We'll see. What else do we got? Silent Green Room. There you go. How are you, other Phil? I still have to, one of these days, have other Phil on the show, and we're going to have like 2 Phils, 1 show. I know, just because that's a joke that hasn't been talked about in, 15 years? So why not bring that back? Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. That's funny. Okay, everybody's saying hi. Dragon Lance tonight. That's true. You're a White Walker. They didn't tan. They just kind of looked like bleached zombies. Yeah, Book Barn NJ. That's true. Oh, Roscoe's here. Good morning, Roscoe. How you doing, buddy? Roscoe just had a big move in the past couple of weeks. Congratulations on that. I know you're probably missing the warmer Florida weather. You're not that far north, but the snow, I guess, or the cold has gotten a little bit further south than it typically does. Let's see. Yep. Congratulations to our good buddy Evils Comics on reaching 1K. Very big milestone, and well deserved. Congratulations, my friend. Kenneth Bird is here. Hey, Kenneth, how you doing today? So this week, let me see. Not much comic-wise. I haven't really done a lot of stuff comic-wise in a while. I finally did do a little bit of drawing, and I appreciate people for going up and looking at that. I did make a key comic book purchase that you will see on this channel shortly. Not this week, maybe next week. Yeah, it's something I was surprised that I got until I looked at the some of the data coming out. I shouldn't say much more because it just kind of sounds like babbling at this point. Plus, we have our good buddy Brian waiting backstage. So why don't I do this? I'm going to go ahead and get Brian in here. Coming to the stage now, Brian LCS. How you doing, Brian?
Good. How are you, Phil?
I'm well. I'm well.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming. I have my copy of the Doctor here. It's always on my shelf. I like to show it off when I use that as a backdrop. And, I was thinking about this. I'm not 100% certain, but were you my guest when we did our like 3-year anniversary show, where there was some milestone that you were here for? And I was like, I think this is like the second or third milestone Brian's been on for.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I'm trying to think. And congrats on 4 years. That's
Thank you. Yeah, we're here. So we could talk more about that, but I want to get talking about the Doctor. So issue 1. First of all, if people haven't gotten issue 1, is it still available?
Yes. Yeah, we have. I still have some copies, and I can certainly. Part of the new Kickstarter campaign is that you can buy an issue of issue 1 and issue 2. So I have some copies that I still have in inventory, and I can always print more if I have to do that. That's part of the Kickstarter. And it's funny. Last week on Only Slabs, I won a copy of the Doctor.
There you go.
Rob had supported the Kickstarter and put a bunch in his giveaway bin, so it was just so random that I actually won a copy of it.
It's very Lion King, very Circle of Life.
Yes,
you put one out and got one back.
You're right.
Well, talking about the Doctor, so issue 2, you've got the Kickstarter up. Let me ask you, what kind of challenges did you run into with issue 1 that you learned from for issue 2?
I think it was just working with an artist for the first time, and not, not being, in the same room or on a stream. We basically handle everything via email. I actually never in both cases never actually talked to the artist like on the phone. It was always just via email, and so it was a little, just trying to get used to trying to describe things that you want done visually, on a page, via email. But the good news is that you can, if I had something in mind, I could Google and grab some images of something that was similar and send it to the artist and say, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And so that was a little bit of a learning curve, initially just working that way. But that really helped me for, because I went from one artist in issue 1 to a new artist in issue 2. So that helped me kind of work a little bit better with him, a little bit faster, and communicating what I was looking for visually in some of the panels. So,
who is your artist for issue 2?
So it's David Rodriguez. He's on Instagram. I'll drop his Instagram link there. But he was fantastic. He really kind of kept me updated. He was very good compared to my first kind of go round. The second issue, he's communicating, his process and what he was working on. He sent me some, sketch pages, and so he was very easy to work with. And really talented. I thought the art in issue 1 was done really well, but I think David's art in issue 2 is even better. It's obviously a different style, but it's really when I first started thinking about the project, that's kind of what I envisioned I wanted the art to look like.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was kind of surprised because it's, at least in my experience or my observation, you have a Kickstarter that comes out, and then if they get to another issue, it takes months and months and months, sometimes even close to a year. You got issue 2 going pretty quickly.
Yeah, I had the script outlined and pretty much done by the time I had issue 1 done. I had issue 2, the script done, and so started looking pretty quickly for a new artist. And what was nice about working with David was he produced a lot of the work up front and didn't require, I basically paid him at the end. And so sometimes artists want to do, a certain 2 or 3 pages, want to get paid, 2 or 3 pages and get paid. And so there was a little bit of an incentive on his part to get the work done.
That's rare.
Quickly, because he set this up. It was the way he wanted to get paid at the end. And so, he from his perspective, he had a little bit of an incentive to get the work done. And so, and it worked out. I was able to, turn it around he was able to turn around the interior pages pretty quickly. I mean, that's one of the things I learned in issue 1, or I had talked to some, before I even started issue 1, I had talked to some others, Brandon from Dismay Comics, Doug Bratton, with Isolation, just to kind of get their feedback and their experience on books. And one of the things that Brandon had told me from Dismay was oftentimes he'll have the total book completed before he actually does the Kickstarter, so that he can also fulfill the book very quickly.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that was one of the things I did with issue 1, where basically once the Kickstarter's done, and if it's successful, it's just a matter of getting the book printed, and you can get it out to backers, pretty quickly. And so I followed the same path for issue 2, and so we have all of the complete work is done. All of the interior pages are done. I just printed them out on, at home. But, so hopefully the Kickstarter is successful, and we can basically send them off to the printer pretty much right away.
We are getting some questions in, and actually it seems like it's a good time to segue to this one. So Evil's got a couple great questions coming in. Anybody, if you do have questions, just pop them into the chat below. But I liked this one. Do you have a timeline for any upcoming issues once the Kickstarter finishes, or do you have any idea of when the next issue is going to drop?
So, I mean, just from issue 2, right, the nuts and bolts of it are, once the Kickstarter ends, it takes about 3 weeks for Kickstarter to release the funds to you. So I have the option of, sending the book to the printer right away, and basically putting, because when you send it to the printer, you have to pay for the printing up front. Mm-hmm. So knowing that if I have the money coming in 3 weeks, I could submit that to the printer right away, outlay the money and then get that money back, when it gets funded. Or, I can wait the 3 weeks and then send it to the printer. So depending on which avenue I choose, it's going to be, probably 6 to 8 weeks before, if I didn't outlay the money right away, it'd be 6 to 8 weeks. If I outlay the money for printing, it would probably be, 3 or 4 weeks before I could ship the books. I have script 3 outlined, and I'm starting to work on it now. And then it's really, how quickly the artist can do the interior pages.
Oh, wow.
And that would basically be the timeline. But, I'm hoping to work with David again, given his schedule for issue 3. And, he was able to do there's 15 interior pages for this issue 2. And he was able to turn that around in about 10 weeks.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing I'm aware of is also too, you don't want to, people have a lot of other priorities to spend money on. And so I would like to be able to turn around issue 3, rather quickly, but you also want to give a little bit enough time of, so that people that do support it can catch their breath, or, support other things. I think that's kind of the nature of it with Kickstarter. You don't want to, because you're relying on backers and their support, that you don't want to put stuff out too frequently that they get a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
So
Kickstarter. You know how many times I've looked at a Kickstarter and I'm like, oh, this sounds great, and then it's like $25 shipping. It's like, can I just go pick it up?
right. Yeah. No, it's funny because I had, since now I've had a successful, campaign. I've had a few people who are starting there first reach out to me, and I happened to look at a Kickstarter for somebody this week, and that was one of the things that, his shipping for a single comic book was like $20, and I was like, that seems a little expensive. I said, why? How did you come up with that number? And he's like, oh, I had no idea. I just threw that number in there, and I was like, that may, because the book itself was like, I think $8 or $10 for the single issue, and the shipping was like double. And I'm like, that may hurt you, because I even looked at it and was like, that seems like a lot of money to ship a book.
Yeah, there's been quite a few times when I'm like, I'll get the PDF.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Just honestly, it's just, if you could buy 3 books for the price of what you're paying for shipping, what's the point? And I feel bad saying that because, a Kickstarter, I want to support, much more than something coming out of the big two, especially.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's also got to make, got to pay the bills.
Yeah. No, like I said, that was one of the shocks. I was like, okay, the book itself is reasonably priced, but then when I, clicked on the shipping, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I know from my own experience that, to ship a single comic book, even if you had to buy packing material and, Gemini mailers, it still shouldn't cost you $20 to ship ship a single book.
So with Kickstarter, this is something I didn't realize. So I didn't know that Kickstarter didn't set the shipping price. I thought that I thought they did it, to be honest with you. And I always thought that was like a extra Kickstarter fee, because I figured.
Yeah, no, you have to actually set it yourself. They do have some third party like integrations with some shipping partners, but it's basically on you to kind of set that all up and set your price. And so I've known from experience, just even shipping AOKs and giveaways, that you kind of have to box things up and you have to weigh it and figure out, so you can get an estimate. And the post office recently introduced the Ground Advantage like tier, which is a little bit less expensive. So you do have some good shipping options. You just kind of need to know what the nuts and bolts. Like I said, the weight and the dimensions of the package to really understand.
I just like pirate ship. Just let me put it in. It's a little bit cheaper usually, and let me just put it outside and make sure that the postman takes it. And that's it. I don't even have to leave the house.
Right.
Now, the overall story of the Doctor, is this like a limited series? Like, do you have a definitive beginning, middle, and end, or is this something you're like, let me see how long we can go with this?
No, I mean, the goal with this story and the way I have it outlined is really to be 3 issues, kind of like the first story arc of the Doctor, kind of introduce him. It's kind of his origin story, and then introduce some other characters around him that could be spin-offs or further stories within the Doctor timeline. But I think for me, his kind of origin and background will be finished in issue 3. And it's been interesting because I've had thoughts of, well, I could certainly continue the story, but now once I kind of sat down and started writing the script and doing outlines, I've had 4 or 5 other ideas for other storylines outside of the Doctor. And so committed to finishing the 3 issues for his initial story, and then kind of see where I want to go. But I kind of have some outlines of some other stories that I'd like to try to do.
Well, so this are those within the Doctor universe, or are they spin-offs? Or are they on their own?
No, there's a few that are standalone, but there are some characters that have been introduced in issue 1 of the Doctor, some other heroes that could be spun off, within the Doctor universe as their own stories.
And I don't want to spoil too much. Maybe I know more than some do, but there is a why don't we say a key a key character appearance in this upcoming issue. Is that right?
Yes. We're introducing a new character in issue 2. Kind of the villain of the story, and so that's one of the cover. Your cover, highlights that character. So that's kind of the evolution of the story. Now we're kind of peeling back the the onion a little bit and getting a little bit more about the Doctor and his history and backstory.
Yeah. In case you haven't checked out Brian's IG page about the Doctor or the Kickstarter itself, 2 people from the community, myself and Norin Rad Comics, both did covers for this. So look, Aaron is a great artist. I recommend that you get both covers, both different styles and both with different characters. And yeah, I can tell you the first one, that cover I did for you, that was a lot of fun. I got a little, I remember telling you, I'm trying not to say why, but I got a little like queasy at first when I was like, this would be a good concept, but I can't do it.
Yes.
We got
a little bit of a reveal at the end of the story in issue 2.
Okay, here's one from Evil. How would you say? How far would you say you have the story outlined? Does the story have an end or going or a concept? You kind of just answered that.
Like I said, it kind of the idea with this was just to kind of introduce some characters and kind of complete the origin story for the Doctor. That was the idea of the kind of first story arc with Dr. Miller.
Yeah, and I can tell you, if you haven't checked out the Doctor issue 1 yet, again, here's my copy here. Mine is signed. If you haven't checked this out yet, first, what are you waiting for? Second, I will tell you, it is not a typical superhero flash in the pan story. It is definitely something different in a good way. So check out the Kickstarter so you can not only get the next issue, but also catch up. Perfect way to read it, in my opinion. I like to sit down and read stories all at once myself. What kind of feedback did you get from the Kickstarter? Anything from the community or anything about the comic?
Not so much on the Kickstarter. I think I did spend a lot of time looking at other Kickstarter campaigns, successful ones that were in progress, ones that didn't fund, to kind of understand what some of the things they were offering. So I didn't get a lot of feedback from the Kickstarter perspective. I did get some feedback on the story. I was hoping, I was hoping I would get some reviews, but I didn't really get, and no, I don't think anybody did a review, like a regular comic review of the Doctor. I was hoping I could get that, and I'd asked for feedback, but didn't get a lot of feedback. I did have a few people read the script. Evil's Comics was one of them. Taylor Winder was one. Before I actually took it to the artist, I had them read the script and kind of give me some critiques and some feedback. So I didn't do that. I did do that with issue 2. I sent it to Mike. Mike was able to read it for me. And he was also just looking for, spelling and grammar and things like that for me as well. But I was hoping I would get maybe more feedback or some more, like I said, reviews, so that I could hopefully use that to help,
Yeah.
correct anything going forward.
I mean, I'll tell you, I try not to, my personal perspective, I try not to review something that either if I know the person or that I'm friendly with the creator, only because I feel like, hey, I don't want you to think, if you're just coming off the street, I don't want you to think, hey, Brian's Phil's friend. Of course, he's going to give it a good review.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, in this instance, this is an easy pickup for anybody. I'm going to just throw out in there and say that. But you know what it is too, with Kickstarters and with a lot of indie or self-published comics in general. I notice when I get something to review, I tend to be lighter on it. Like if somebody sends me their stuff, and I'm sure you've gotten comics, people like, hey, can you review this on your channel, that type of thing. There's only been one instance where somebody sent me something and I didn't talk about it because I really didn't like it.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't like to, like, if I'm talking about your thing, I like it. And I'll say this too, if you're watching, because there are two people who sent me stuff. I didn't read it yet. So the two recent things, no, that's not what I'm talking about. This is something that happened a couple of years ago. And it also, I find it difficult just from a creator standpoint, because, you go to read it and then, like, in the same week you put up your review, you have 8 other reviews coming out. So it's like, all right, well, how can I make this different? Where's the perspective change in as far as my content goes?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, look, hopefully we get more people talking about it. It is a great story, and it's one that I think you need as many eyes as you can on. That's, again, just my opinion there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just getting it in front of people, outside of the, our community, or, we have communities within communities, on YouTube. There's certain channels that gravitate towards each other. So it's really just kind of trying to spread the word. And I mentioned it earlier, just, if you can't support it financially, which is fine. I totally understand. There's a lot of, there's a lot of different things, charities and Kickstarters, and there's a lot of different ways you can spend your money. So the biggest thing you could do is just help me, share it to your, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, wherever you're hanging out, that maybe gets in front of an audience that I'm not in front of. That would, that really helps me.
Speaking of other expenses, this just kind of hit me now. Have you thought about doing an incentive, like buy 10 copies of the Doctor, you get a free carton of eggs?
I actually was thinking of putting together a video this morning, and that's what I said. You can support the Doctor for less than a dozen eggs. Things that are more expensive than supporting the Doctor. So I still may do that.
Let me see here. Okay, somebody asked about comic ideas coming from this. We talked about that. Here you go, from our friend to the north. Is the Doctor covered by Canadian healthcare?
We're in discussions. We're trying to get that worked out.
There you go. Here's one from Evil. Will you continue to use different community members for covers for next issues, or settle?
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that was one of the things I certainly learned, after after issue 1 was, there were people saying, hey, I wish you would have, I would have done a cover. I would, and so, I certainly want to do that. And that's part of this Kickstarter, is we have a blank cover. So we have your cover and we have Noren's cover. And then we have a blank cover. And the goal really is to be able to print those, get those printed and get them out to other artists within the community to see what their take is on, one of the characters in the story. So, but yeah, no, that would be the goal with issue 3, is to try to bring on some additional community artists to do covers.
Yeah, you're blessed with a wide pool of talent there.
Yes.
It's a lot of great artists.
It was funny because Izzy mentioned to me, Izzyverse was like, hey, why didn't you ask me to do a cover? And it was like, there's so many different choices. But I didn't want to have, 10 different covers. I wanted to kind of keep it simple. not have a, I know it's a big complaint with, I know I've complained about, Spider-Man and his, 15 variant covers. So I didn't want to go that route with my own book.
That's smart too. And um, yeah, like that. And when I don't know if you see it as much now, but when they did second prints with slightly different covers, that type of
Right.
thing. Yeah. Evil has a question. He's if you don't have an agent, I think that Evil is going for that.
I need to hire Mike as my PR guy.
Now that you've created and produced a comic, ... What is the new goal? I think he said new. If options, would you move the Doctor to a company like Marvel or Image if the option came around?
I've looked at some of the companies, and they have, you can submit books or artwork to them. I don't know if I'm at that point yet. I think I want to finish the Doctor story first, at least the first 3 issues, and kind of go from there. I do, like I said, it has getting back into writing and this creative space, and I'm sure you can relate to it with your artwork. Is that now I have, like I said, I have 4 or 5 other ideas that I've kind of jotted down and outlined that I'm excited about, and so I think it's just the creative process kind of got my mind thinking that way, and now I have other projects, other stories that I'm excited about, and so we'll kind of see where it goes. I wouldn't be opposed to trying to submit it, either the Doctor or one of my other stories to one of the big publishers. But like I said, I feel like I need a little bit more experience to just make sure that I'm confident enough to be able to submit to a big a bigger publisher. Yeah.
When you're ready for that too, I say this to many people, but Image is always kind of like the natural choice, I think, for indie creators. Because from what I understand, I took a writing course, and one of the teachers told us this, is that when you pitch a comic to Image, you're not just saying, hey, here's the concept, hire me an artist, hire me a color stylist. Image is like, okay, give it to us. Like, you're handing in a completed project to
Right.
Image. They might tweak things a little bit, I guess, but they're pretty much, all right, just give us what you have and we'll go from there.
And it's interesting too, the other stories that I kind of have been thinking about are really not superhero based. And you think about indie books or Image, a lot of times they are other stories. Maybe they're sci-fi or futuristic or I think that they could be a good fit for like Image. But like I said, it's really just making sure I'm confident enough and that I have enough experience under my belt to feel I'm ready to submit something.
Now, I correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you mentioning in a past video, this isn't your first foray into writing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you wrote a film script.
Yeah, so I actually studied film production and television production in college, and took a number of screenwriting classes. I've done 4 or 5 feature-length screenplays. I wrote them when I was in college. I actually had a literary agent for a little while when I graduated college. Nothing ever came of it. None of my scripts were ever sold or optioned. And then it kind of fizzled because I got into the workforce and was working a regular job, and it kind of never went anywhere. And I've been carrying these scripts around for 20 something years now. But when I started getting back into comic collecting and seeing some of the other indie creators and some of the Kickstarters, it kind of, because my goal out of college was I wanted to work in film. I wanted to produce a film. I wanted to produce a feature-length film or direct or write. That was the goal, but that I kind of shifted.
Life catches up.
Yeah, exactly. And so now coming back to collecting, I can accomplish that. I can still tell a story and visually direct it, but in a comic book form. And it's a heck of a lot lot cheaper than, trying to produce a feature length film,
Oh
or
yeah.
even a TV episode, right? So,
Have you considered adapting any of those completed film scripts or even some ideas that you had into a comic or even a trade paperback?
I would really have to go back and do a rewrite on them, because I wrote those when I was, early 20s, and so I certainly have a lot more life experience now with, being married and raising 3 kids. And so, um, I would certainly want to go back and rewrite. There was a sci-fi story that I wrote, screenplay that I wrote, that I think could be potential for a comic book. But like I said, I would definitely have to go back and and rewrite the script, because I think it's probably dated, in some of the language that was used, and to even my point of view, I'm sure has changed a bit since I first wrote it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something too, is that I don't know if people realize this, the person, even any kind of art that you do, even if you want to go back to YouTube videos, 'cause I argue that YouTube videos can, be art if done well. Um, the person you were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even 10 weeks ago is not necessarily the same person you are now. So it does affect your outlook on things and what you
Oh,
do.
definitely, yeah.
Just trying to catch up here.
Justin's here.
Yep, I agree with you there.
Yes.
Comics fan, I have a sci-fi story in mind that I have been playing around with 6 to 8 years. Yeah, some of the best ideas are ones that sometimes you get a concept of, and you take it so far, and you have to put it on pause. But yeah, and Evil 2 is, you have good ideas. You want to bounce around to trusted friends and whatnot and see what they think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Having that feedback, is important, is important. And that was one of the things, in my college screenwriting class, was that we would do, like, we had an assignment to write, a short script, 4 or 5 pages, and then we would read it in class and get feedback and critique from classmates. So,
Mhm.
which was valuable, because, just, you may not be thinking of what somebody else is thinking, and so it really kind of could help you shape the story.
Yeah, I took a screenwriting class in college as well, and I remember our semester was the first one where they didn't require you to write a full script. We only were writing the first act,
Okay.
but you had to, of course, map everything out and whatnot. And that peer feedback was huge, and it was something I discounted until I graduated. I got home. I was like, all right, let me finish this. Like, I can't. Like, I have the map. I just don't. I didn't have that same kind of, like, I think, creative force to bounce things off of.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I mean, look, if you have a couple people that either online or offline in your life that you could bounce stuff off, it's huge.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
definitely. It definitely helps. Because there's times, and a good example is the CBC awards. Like, I have a certain idea in mind, and then I'll say to somebody, talk to somebody else about it, and they're like, no, that's not, that, or you're missing this, or so. Having that feedback and really anything that you do is important.
Yeah. Let me ask again about the doctor here. When you were formulating the doctor, was there anything that you were trying to? Evil's got to go. See you, Bal. Anything that you were trying to model it after, or any kind of concepts you were like, yeah, this could work, but what if I did a twist?
Yeah, I mean, the characters are certainly based on people that I know, or people that that are in my life, or have come into my life and gone out of my life. So certainly, characteristics of people that I know that are kind of built into some of these characters, because obviously, when you're writing something, at least for me, you want to base it on some type of experience that you've had. But the goal really was, and you mentioned it, that you feel like the story is a little bit different. That was the, kind of wanted to put a little bit of a different twist on a superhero story. and not just not just a a superhero story. It's something where we're dealing maybe with concepts or themes that are happening in real life today. People deal with all kinds of stuff, death and disagreements and all different kinds of things. And so you think about a superhero, they've got these superpowers, but they still potentially still have a family and have to deal with some of the day to day crap that we all deal with. So and
Yeah.
if I have super strength, I might handle that a little bit differently than I would if I didn't. So that's kind of the idea, is just try to humanize some of the superheroes.
Now, do you think the fact that you're using, I shouldn't say using your own characters, but you have the ability to say, hey, this is not Superman. This is something I've created. Besides, of course, getting sued from DC or Warner Brothers. Do you think that's kind of helped your main goal in the story that much? Because you don't have that baggage of, okay, you see this guy like this, now you have to get rid of that and focus on who he is as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I when coming up with some of the characters, you're trying, at least in my mind, I'm trying not to, I wouldn't want to have somebody who's got, spider-like powers, right? Because that's kind of an obvious thing, right? I'm a big Spider-Man fan. And so, but how can I take maybe some of the powers or, abilities and kind of make them my own? But I think we have a lot of that in the, I was looking it up the other day. I forget how many characters. Marvel has is it like 80,000 characters that are on the books for them? And so you're bound to have some crossover between, characters, abilities, and things like that. So I think it's trying to put the human side of it, or the characteristics of the character, make them maybe a little bit different than others that we've seen before.
Yeah, you know what it is? I think that this gives you an advantage, again, because I don't have a preconceived notion of this is how this character should be, and this is the story that you're telling. And look, there are writers, I think, who have told very good personal stories about superheroes. To keep it with Spider-Man, with some exception, I really like Straczynski's run.
Okay.
And when I think about it, it's not so much the big action scenes or anything that happened. It was the fact that you had a story that was more about Peter than anything else. Aunt May discovering after years Peter is Spider-Man. His kind of like shifting of the jobs, even like post Civil War, you had that kind of uneasiness where it's like, okay, we have to constantly shift around, we have to hide, that type of thing. And that's something that resonated with me. Even I think Tom King has successfully done that to a different degree with Miracle Man. I know he's gotten a lot of crap for it, but I think his Batman run was great. And I think Heroes in Crisis, he may have taken it a little bit too far. Maybe that's an example where people had these notions where it's either, oh, here's Harley Quinn, how can she have these personal issues?
Right.
It was a little bit of jamble, but I think that gives you an advantage.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that has drawn me to Ultimate Spider-Man, because they're showing more, the personal side of Peter and his family, and his relationship with MJ, and he's got kids, and so that has really been one of the things I really liked about that story, because it's not what we typically get in Amazing Spider-Man or some of the other Spider-Man titles. Is when I got back into collecting and first picked up my Spider-Man book, I was shocked, a little bit shocked, that he still was dealing with the same stuff he was dealing with when I first started collecting. Like, he didn't have a job, he was broke, and all these things. And I'm like, he hasn't matured any? Like, you would think, he would have progressed a little bit.
What it is, though? I think that it's a combination of the fans saying this is not what I'm used to, so I don't like it, and also Marvel and DC being quick. Usually one goes a little bit quicker than the other, and they kind of switch in order, at least in my head, to say, oh, no, we're bringing it back. I mean, that's why I stopped reading Batman, because it was like, all right, the writer's going to come on, they're going to try to tell a story, they're going to use a lot of the same characters that you just saw a couple months ago. And then by the end of the run, all the toys go back into the box, and then a new writer comes on, and it's very rare that they carry over all these things.
Right. And I think that's the issue with these legacy characters. You know, Spider-Man's been around, you know, for 60 years. You know, and you know, Superman, Batman even longer, right? Wonder Woman. So,
yeah,
you know, how do you write that character for somebody who's, you know, older, who's been reading the story for 20, 30 years, and then still, you know, appease to a new reader who's reading Spider-Man for the first time? It's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah, because even Straczynski's run, at one point, Peter was a school teacher, and I was like, this is perfect, this is great. And then that was gone pretty quickly.
Right.
But even like, I remember during Dan Slott's run with Spider-Man, where at one point he was running his own empire that quickly came crashing down. People like, oh, this isn't our Peter. What is he, a CEO or something? Come on.
Right. Yeah. Parker, was it like Parker Industries? And that was short lived. Yeah.
Even you know, with the X-Men, I loved the Krakoan era for the reason that, hey, this is an evolution in the kind of mission statement that we've seen from the X-Men. And I felt like out of the gate, people were like, wait, they're on an island, they're not in a school, this is not what I'm used to. And I mean, it took 5 years, and maybe I argue it should have been a little bit longer, but Marvel's like, all right, hold on, we're bringing everybody back. It's you take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back with characters.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then you know, the latest news, and Spider-Man, obviously they're rebooting it again. They're Volume 7, but then they also mentioned, I haven't dug into it, but something about bringing Gwen Stacy back.
I saw that too. Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, that's such a critical point in Spider-Man's history. You know, that death helped shape him, and so to now potentially bring her back is like, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know much about it other than the headline, but I can't see how that's going to work.
You know, it's death in comics is kind of funny, because I remember when my wife and I first started seeing each other, and she was first trying to help me organize. We would go through some books like, oh yeah, that one died. It's like, this person died. I was like, they got better. What do you mean they got better? It's like, it's comics. Nobody stays dead.
Right.
But it seems like you know, in the past 10 to 15 years, we've seen these kind of sacred cows, Bucky, Jason Todd, just even Uncle Ben, kind of sort of a little bit come back to life. So I'm kind of curious to see if this is an example where, you know, with Bucky and Jason Todd, it was a good move, or if it's just something that's a flash in the pan type of thing.
Right. Yeah. It's, you know, it almost feels like a gimmick, like,
Comics Fan brought up a good example too. I remember that run too. And to be honest with you, when you kill off a character like that, my thought is they don't know what to do with this character, because
right.
You pretty much just like, I remember Frank and Frankencastle, to be honest with you. I don't know. I thought it was too goofy of a move for that character. But that's my own opinion. I don't want to get off the rails. We're not going to talk about Punisher anyway. So, elevator pitch for the Doctor, issue 1 and issue 2. Go ahead.
So the Dr. Mike Miller, is a doctor who helps superheroes deal with their, like I said, their daily problems. and he's got a past that we're learning about in the story, and maybe he's got some skeletons in the closet. But his ultimate goal is to try to help superpowers, super mutants, anybody with super abilities, navigate, I think, the daily, BS that we all deal with. But I think, it has potential different consequences when you have superpowers. So, that's.
Yeah. And like I said, issue 1 was solid. Issue 2, without saying much, I know I know Brian's got some surprises in here for you, and I think it's a must own, if I do say so for myself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm going to wrap things up, but first, let's see if there's any other questions coming in. Or you know what? What am I saying? Besides the doctor, tell us what else you got going on.
We're live streams every other Saturday. We moved back to Saturdays, so 10 a.m. I was just live this morning, so I'll be live again on the March 1st. So Cliff and I are kind of sharing that 10 a.m. time slot. So every other week, one of us will be. I'll be live, like I said, every other week, and Cliff is the in between weeks. And then just some regular videos on the channel. I've been trying to do a little bit more. I'm coming up on 4 years. April will be my 4-year anniversary on YouTube, and so I'm certainly getting a little burnt out on New Comic Book Day, unboxings and hauls. I mean, I'm in the comic book shop, once a week. I'm looking online about comics, and so that type of content doesn't interest me as much as it did when I first started. So I've been trying to do some different content on my own channel. Maybe doing some deep dives on the comic book industry or characters, things like that. So I think it's like kind of the evolution of being on YouTube for 4 years that you kind of, I'm starting to, change some things that I used to like and do some different things. So yeah, still doing some pre-recorded videos about twice a week and a live stream every other week. So, and then the CBC Awards will be back, in the early summer, June timeframe. We'll be kicking off year 5. I can't believe it's year 5 of the CBC Awards.
I have an idea for you for the CBC Awards, by the way. I'll mention to you when we're done.
All right, good.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap things up. Brian, thanks for coming on.
Phil, thanks so much for having me. Yeah.
Of course. Everybody, if you haven't already, and I know that especially among YouTube, everybody who's checked in here knows Brian, knows about the doctor, but I'm talking to the people on Facebook that see this, LinkedIn, if there's just some sort of weird platform I don't know about that you're watching this on. Or look, if you're a space alien right now, you just pick up a signal and say, what the hell is this crap? Get the doctor. Kickstarter. All right? Go on. Kickstarter. Just search for the doctor. Issues 1 and 2. Even if you have a copy, you know what? Brian gave me a good idea. Get a copy for giveaways. Throw it in your giveaway box. Or look, even if you know people out who don't. One of the reasons I like this too is that I know people who are interested in mental health, but not necessarily interested in comics. Sometimes they'll maybe pick up a trade paperback of Saga that I haven't gotten back yet. Hint, hint. This is a natural read for you, and I recommend that you check that out.
Thank you, Phil.
Well, there's nothing left to say other than peace, love, and comics. Take care, everybody.